Excellent. So, let's get back to our event. And let's move to our roundtable conversation on Brexit. But before we start with Brexit and what we can learn from Brexit, I would like to give all panelists the opportunity to introduce themselves and talk a little bit more about their research area, their interests, their work affiliation, etc. Najib, can we start with you?
Sure. I'm Najib Judd. I'm with Statecraft. I'm a political strategist for about the last 15 years, a management consultant for the last 20 years, focusing on branding and communications. I do some political commentary as well. And I'll just say that I'm going to concede, as the least educated person up here, I'm going to preemptively concede every point.
And I'll second that motion. My name is Ben.
I'll take a stab at it. So, you know, how many people in this room even knew who Soleimani was before a few days ago, right? And now all of a sudden, you know, he's supposed to be our enemy number one terrorist, number one enemy. So you have to think of what's to gain from that narrative. Trump isn't the first president to try to start a war when he's looking to get reelected. He's just started a impeachment trial, a Senate trial and so he's looking to distract from that. He's looking to win over anti-Iran senators and also win over war hawks as well, right? Because there's a lot of profit to be made in war. Let's not forget that. I think one his bigger concern is how closely does Canada keep tying themselves to these sort of U.S. Military exploits that they do. You know, even I know we have an extradition treaty with the U.S., but you know, detaining Huawei executive on the behalf of the U.S. has gotten us into a bit of a quagmire with China, and now you know we're embarking on this possible conflict with Iran, which you know has hurt us as a country more than it's hurt the U.S. so far. So I think the bigger conversation as we move forward is how do we get out of this toxic relationship that we're in with the U.S. First, $300,000 by March 27th to enter this leadership race. 3,000 signatures. If that doesn't send the message of elitism, I don't know what does, right? Who can afford that except establishment candidates? And that's what they want. They want an establishment candidate. From a political strategy point of view, I totally get it, right? Because the fact is they don't have a year to get their act together because minority governments last an average of 2 years, right? So they don't have the time. They need someone with name recognition. They need someone who can raise money because they have to fill their coffers in case of an election sooner than later. So from a strategy standpoint, I totally understand it. There was a survey done in December which said that accessible voters for the Conservative Party, that's not conservative stalwarts, but people who may vote Conservative, the words that they associated with the Conservative Party, traditional, outdated, elitist, right? How is this going to help you when people associate those kinds of names towards your party? The other part of it is, you know, there was another leadership race in 2017 when Scheer won, and that was for the federal NDP. $30,000 to get in. Okay, 500 signatures. Of the 500 signatures, half of your signatures had to be from female members. 100 signatures had to be from equity-seeking groups, indigenous, visible minorities, LGBTQ, etc. Now, 100 signatures out of 500 isn't a lot, but look at the message it sends in terms of what your party is about, and look what the result is. You get the first visible minority leader.
You mean first? You mean first visible minority prime minister? So one of the things
we elected a majority government in 2015 that promised electoral reform to
we got
almost immediately
marijuana instead, the legalization of weed.
And then we
Only
and then we rewarded them with a minority government. Right? So where's our accountability? If we want electoral reform, I'm telling you right now, provincial referendums aren't going to get it done because, as we alluded to earlier, no one does a referendum without knowing what the outcome is going to be. Right? So the way that they do referendums and have been done in this country, they're all designed to fail. on electoral reform.
What they think is going to happen. David Cameron did not know what was going to happen. Right.
I think that, let's all agree that the system is broken and that we need to try some different things. So I think that's what we're seeing in the West. We're seeing countries experiment with coalition governments, minority governments, where extreme right, extreme left, socialism. This is an experiment, and this is always the last gasp before disruption comes, right? As everybody tries everything under the sun, realizes that it's all the same, and it's time to try something new. So I actually don't think that having coalition governments or even experimenting with right-wing governments, as some European countries are doing, is necessarily a bad thing, because I think at the end of the day, what we're all going to realize is that all of these parties only have one interest in mind, is that stay in power and do whatever it takes to stay in power, which is a broken system.